Hello everyone and welcome back to the HCW YouTube channel. My name is RateWrestle and today we've got another UK Indie review. So we're slightly late on this one because I've had quite a busy schedule and Alex has been slightly ill during this period. But he's been nice enough to come back on. So how are you doing today, Alex?
Yes, wonderful. As always, I will point out that I'm not in my own house filled with this pop culture trash. Me and my beautiful girlfriend, who is away at the moment in a French monastery, we live a rather minimalist life. So instead, I have to come to my friend Heather's house. Say hello, Heather.
Whatever. I ever. And I wanted to ask, how's your ankle doing?
Well, thankfully, thanks to the power of faith, and it really was quite the miracle, my ankle restored itself to full working order. And that is something that can happen if you really truly believe, you have the faith, you have the belief, and you commit yourself, then miracles can happen to anyone out there, not just myself.
Okay, and you did believe, and we'll go into the we'll pick up your match later on what happened. So we're discussing Kamikaze Pro Live 32 at the Stetchford Social Club. It was on March 12th. So we're going to kick off with the first match on the card was Hassan Ali versus he wants this to be definitely known, unkillable Ryan Parrott, not just
And,
Ryan Parrott.
and unkillable he was, an apt nickname, and always an apt nickname for Orion Parrot. This time, Rate, you were at the show. You
Yeah,
actually
I
did your
turned up.
job.
Yeah.
So why don't you start with some of your opinions on this match?
No worries. Yeah, I will do. So obviously yourself, you were preparing for your matchup, but you had more of an insight later on the show because you were actually on comms. But yeah, so Hassan versus Ryan Parrott. So it started off with pretty much like a battle of the wits kind of thing. Then Hassan hit a dive, like a spectacular, like full on powerful dive. Hassan is a big guy, so to see him like coming at you like that, that's not fun. Um, then Ryan Parrott decided to Hassan's weak point is his legs, because obviously if Hassan's finisher is the spear, if he can't run, he's not going to hit that spear. So Ryan was working on the legs for a lot of the match. Then, as usual, the power of the Prime came involved, but it was Ryan Parrott's downfall. With the Prime, he kind of got distracted by that, and he ended up getting absolutely obliterated by a Hassan Ali spear for Hassan to pick up the win.
Yeah, very impressive from Hassan. For those of you who don't know, and this is a bit of a behind the scenes info, wrestlers will tend to sneak out before their matches to have a little peek at what the arena and the crowd feels like. So I did get a good look at maybe this match and halfway through the one after before I had to go really stretch out for mine. And yeah, it's the same as when you see a racing driver sneak out to watch the lights on the opening grid before their race. You just want to really feel what that atmosphere is before the pressure is on. So I did see most of this match. There were a few points that I thought were really interesting. That the Prime, which you mentioned, cost Ryan in the end. It did sort of power Hassan back up, as we've seen with influence in general, really gave him a lot of strength. But it almost cost Hassan because, if I remember correctly, there was one moment where Ryan used the referee to form a barrier between himself and Hassan. And then behind the referee's back, he threw the Prime into Hassan's face. And then he hit a rather fantastic spear of his own that looked like it was going to be the win. And I thought that was the match done. I started heading to the back, but it wasn't. It was a Hassan kick out and fighting through. And also, let's not forget that the match did start with a rather unfortunate wardrobe malfunction for Ryan Parrott. His gear almost came away from him, and well done him for getting it back on track and getting through the rest of the match. And thankfully, the gear held up for the rest of the contest.
Yeah, there were a few occasions where it nearly decided I was going to mention it, but now you've brought it up. He had to concentrate a lot on keeping that up.
That is actually part of Ryan Parrott's distraction technique for his opponents.
Like a baboon.
So a loss for Ryan Parrott here, and we mentioned on the last one that he has suffered a few of them, and he's really trying to establish himself again in Kamikaze in a big way. This was a loss, but I did feel like he had a great performance. This is one of the better Ryan Parrott matches I've seen. I thought he was really strong. I thought he really Yeah, he didn't toy with his food quite so much. He actually went for some really convincing finishes that I thought he had the match won. And if anything, it was a bit unlucky that Hassan got hold of the prime, and we know what that does to Hassan. It's not something you can really prepare for. It's not something you can really deal with it. I felt it. It's supernatural when he gets hold of that prime. So I don't think Ryan really messed up, and I was happy to see aggressive, angry side from Ryan trying to get that win back, establish himself back on Kamikaze, and really change his fortunes. Unfortunate though, it didn't end up that way.
Yeah, and shout out to Alsan, you're picking up the win. He's been very much a win-loss, so hopefully this kind of kicks him off into kind of a winning mode.
Yeah, we'll see. Not to give away a spoiler, but this is, like you say, a few weeks old, to show. A whole run of wins has led to a match announcement at the next show. Chantel Jordan went 5-0, and she's going to get a rematch. It's not an automatic rematch. She's going to get a rematch from winning 5 matches in a row at the next show. Hassan feels like he's stuttering, and he's always almost getting that run, almost getting that big opportunity. But as you've mentioned, he can't seem to string them together. He can have 5 very big wins against surprising opponents. He almost beat Chantel. He never feels like he's out of a contest, but it never feels like he's stringing together win after win after win. So that's got to be the next goal for Hassan. Huge win here. Looked very good. I think he's looked very good in his past few matches. As you mentioned, his suicide dive is spectacular because he's a powerhouse. He's a very strong guy. He's not someone you expect to launch through the ropes, and he does it with absolutely full steam ahead.
Yeah. So moving on to following that match, we had Kieran McQueen, who has changed a bit. He has a great nickname, and it's gone out of my head. Like top mustard, cutting mustard. Oh, what is this? Oh, it's gonna go in my head now. I don't know what. You're not sure yourself, but Kieran, if you watch this, comment below. And he was facing against Brandon Jordan. So this was pretty much, it started off like, because obviously both guys respect each other. It was a bit of a technical one-upmanship kind of match at the start. Surprisingly, there was a dive in this matchup from Brandon. Kieran then...
A theme of the show.
Yeah.
So, obviously me and Rate here having a bit of a laugh, but I'll do his job and inform you guys who are watching at home to get a sense of what the show was like, that this doesn't happen every single show you go to, but this particular show was filled with some high-risk maneuvers, especially to the outside. And that is actually a real shock, because this venue, the crowd are packed quite tight. It's always rammed, but it's always, we have to squeeze them right up to the ring. So there was some pinpoint precision on some of these dives. You were literally hitting the aisleway just to make sure you weren't hitting any fans in the face. And yeah, really spectacular dives did take place, and amazed that we saw so many. But it was somewhat of a theme.
Yeah, it's like the stars aligned and it all happened in one go, basically. And then, yeah, Kieran actually managed to get on top for a lot of this with a few like near falls on Brandon.
Brandon before we get to the end, I sort of complained, or at least derided Kieran for not really having a style or a forte when we talked about the tag match a few shows back. And this, I felt like Kieran did really well in game planning, because Kieran McQueen is often a little bit faster than his opponents, but I don't feel like he really excelled at anything. Here, though, I think he did pick, instead of being an all-rounder, he picked, I'm going to be a hard hitter, because that's the thing I can beat Brandon Jordan at. And I thought he did really well. Kieran McQueen was laying in boots to the back, he was laying in forearms, and I'm glad he picked a lane and stuck with it for this match. I thought it paid off really well for him, and I was really impressed that he didn't try to go speed for speed against Brandon Jordan, which I think he may have come up short.
Yeah, tactical way of thinking, because especially Brandon is a speedball. So Kieran then was on top for a lot of this, but Brandon had a bit of a fire back, and there's a few times where Brandon was going to pick up the win. And then, as they say, the high-risk maneuver, Brandon went to the top rope to hit a splash, and Kieran, smart enough, kept his knees up, and then instant roll-up to pick up the win.
Yeah, huge surprise.
Yeah,
surprise everyone, I think.
Very big surprise.
Yeah, gasps from the people backstage watching the monitor. gas from the crowd. Huge win for Kieran McQueen, who has had a similar Hassan-like path of win-loss, win-loss. And surprising loss for Brandon, who's come off this unmasking. And maybe I'd have thought that had given him a whole new lease on life, and he'd be really wanting to show people who Brandon Jordan is rather than the Kamikaze Kid. And then this happens to him.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a shock out of the blue kind of thing. He thought Brandon would have the momentum, but Kieran cut that off, which is good. It's nice to see Kieran pick up the win.
Yeah, and the end of the match almost summarised their careers at this time, because Brandon came back, absolute house of fire, used the speed, used the agility that he's got, went high risk, and Kieran literally just swept it out from under him when all momentum was in Brandon's favour. Kieran with the knees up, small package, 1, 2, 3 out of nowhere, and Kieran's the one who actually goes forth hoping for bigger and better opportunities.
Yeah, and there was a bit of respect from both guys at the end, but that was disrupted by Will Stevens, who came down and absolutely clobbered both guys. They kind of fought back and in unison instantly felt like a tag team. Kieran and Brandon, they really double teamed Will Stevens. But out of nowhere, I don't know how to explain what this is. Kieran kind of feels like he's being tugged from underneath the ring, and he's like, what's going on? And then like a gremlin kind of thing comes out of the ring, and absolutely, I can't explain what it was.
Rate, I don't want to deride your IT skills, seeing as this is where you spend almost all your life, but if it is possible in post-production, can we get a picture?
Oh no, it's going up, yeah. People need to see it. Yeah.
Because you need to see it, yes. You need to see this creation, this creature. It's tough for me or you to put it into words alone. So hopefully at this point in the video, we'll get an image of Will Stevens' new friend.
Yeah, we'll call him a friend, even though he full-on whipped this ground, absolutely obliterated him with a whip.
Yeah, it was clear, Will Stevens was the master, the leader, the brains, and this new character here at Kamikaze, I don't even know what to call him. We don't even know his name yet. He was rabid, he was aggressive at all times. And it makes you wonder what had happened before the show. Why were they targeting this match? Why did Will attack alone and only use this creature when he needed to? And how long had he been under the ring? Yeah, it was a real surprise, but an absolute terrifying sight, and a real turn for Will Stevens. Will Stevens has been a thug, a brute, a roughneck at Kamikaze, but I've never seen him be dark or satanic or evil. He's just been a bruiser. Whereas when he came out and he attacked these guys, there was slight changes that you could see in his gear. It had been graffitied or marked or summoned in some way. There was ritual markings over his gear now. There was a book that he seemed to have to control this beast. So it wasn't just this debut, but it was also a huge shift for Will Stevens himself. You've got to assume that maybe Kamikaze management are thinking of a tag team match between the two pairs, because as you said, Kieran and Brandon Jordan looked like a team straight away when they started to defend themselves. But once this creation came out, they had no answers. They didn't get any offense in at that point. They were absolutely annihilated. And Will Stevens had to drag his creation to the back. I don't think he'd have stopped until somebody stopped him.
And the thing, it was doing a variation of the mandible claw, which is a kind of twisted move in itself.
Yes.
So if that tag team match happens or whatever happens next time, whoever's facing that's not going to be a fun time, I'm going to be honest.
No, it's going to be scary, and it's going to be really scary for whoever has that debut match against this new team with Will Stevens, because you're not going to know what to expect. This isn't somebody who was just like, here's a 2.0 trainee who you've all met, and there was a few of them on the show, a few debuts of people that we've seen working hard down at the Kamikaze dojo. This wasn't that. This was out of nowhere, out of the blue, forcing itself onto the show, demanding some attention and making some examples out of Kieran and Brandon. Yeah, it's going to be scary for whoever has the first match of this new team.
Yeah. So we're moving on to a match with yourself versus JC. So I don't know if you want to go through the match as you were in the match, or if you want me to go through my opinions and you can tell me I'm wrong. Whatever you want to go via.
Well, last time I started everything because you
Just didn't
weren't
turn
there
up yet.
because you're bad. Like this is my video is the most watched video. My other video is probably almost your second most
It's
watched.
nearly up there, yeah. You are the face of the place.
Yeah, they only watched my videos, so
Yeah.
I'm surprised that all the rest of your hosts aren't telling you to get me on more often, because don't you want your channel to grow? And really surprised you don't turn up to more of the shows that I'm at, like the Glass Kamikaze show. But being as you did bother to drag yourself away from the gaming chair for a minute,
Yep.
you can start off by saying how you thought this match was.
Okay, yeah, so go for it. So this is to mention the crowd at this point. So JC got a big cheer from a section of the portion of the crowd, bigging him up. So that obviously that gave him a bit of momentum in the matchup.
Yeah, there was obviously, it's worth mentioning because it comes up a few times. There was obviously some local, a lot of local guys who knew how hard the Kamikaze Dojo trainees have been training. Local fans who wanted to support the local wrestlers and especially the new guys. It was great to see because we have 2 debuts on this show. We have Nate in his first ever main event. So Nate Riley, Maximus Okoro, JC, they had overwhelming support for being these hardworking local trainees who have, need the support in their opening shows. So it was really great to see, and I'm sure Kamikaze is very appreciative.
Yeah. And there was a new ref, I believe. I've not seen him. I don't know if he was at the last show. But I've not really saw him before.
Yeah, that Josh is his name, and I believe that was the first match he's ever refed. I'm sure he did an excellent job.
For some parts, we'll go into that because I feel like we'll go into it straight away. I feel like you get hard done by refs at the moment. Fans grab a hold of you, just to grab a hold of you, attack you, and there's no disqualifications. It's just carry on.
In this match, a fan tripped me over.
Yeah.
Some people have said later that it was JC hiding in the front row, but I don't trust the Kamikaze fans. I'm fairly certain it was one of those little kids.
Yeah. And the ref just didn't give a crap. But yeah, so it started out with there was a lot of disrespect. I'm going to be honest for JC and yourself. He was trying to just make a joke of it. Twice he slapped you in the face. Very much of disrespectful moves to anyone, especially someone that's like your superior in the ring, like to get slapped.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to surprise you by giving a little bit of credit to JC and saying that maybe he knew in his debut match that he wasn't going to go hold to hold with me, and maybe he didn't want to try going strike for strike, so instead he thought he'd try playing a bit of a mental game. And it's not a bad plan. He might have thought he could lean into getting me off kilter, getting me worked up and wound up. Obviously, with my discipline, I kept it completely zen, and it didn't pay off. But it's not a bad plan going in from JC.
Yeah, like JC, from what I know of him, I didn't think the mind games would be his, but he did play a lot of them. There was a lot of spots where where he stopped running and you continued running because you're a cardio machine. Then there was a very much, I really enjoyed it. I've not seen you do it. You may have done it many times. The pop-up knee. It looked very good.
Thank you. Obviously, probably the move I'm most famous for. It is listed on my cage match as my signature move, so no one would expect you to have done even the slightest bit of research to know that. The pop-up knee, usually a knockout blow, and this was a knockout blow, but it led to JC collapsing backwards and delivering a low blow, which should have been a disqualification, should have been a win for me in the first few minutes of the match. And here's where the inexperience of our new ref really cost me and made me have to wrestle another 10 minutes of a match when I should have had that victory in the opening 2.
Exactly. And he must have been, like, JC's been doing experience because that was intention in my eyes. I've seen a man called Sting do that very much a lot of the time.
Yeah, it felt like after the pop-up knee, I was perhaps voicing my displeasure at JC's antics so far, and perhaps I was voicing it a little too closely, and he used that opportunity to try and gain an advantage with the low blow, a maneuver you would never see me stoop to.
No. So he took control for a bit of that, but your experience led on, and then you took control. And there's a few times where you were near picking up the win, a few near falls and big hits. And then you did a dive, and it caused you an injury, which was it looked like a serious injury in the ring. Everything stopped. The ref was looking out for you, and then out of nowhere, you kind of hit Jossie, and then end up picking up the win.
Yes. Look, let's be clear. Did the bell go?
No. Play
No,
to the whistle.
The bell didn't go.
Yeah.
In fact, I told Josh, when asked, he said, "Do you want me to ring the bell?" I said, "No, not yet. Give me a moment. Don't ring the bell." So the bell hadn't gone. The match wasn't over.
Mm-hmm. Play to the whistle. Yeah, let's say like don't stop until the ref tells you to stop. So that's a bit of experience.
I feel like maybe we have been a little desensitized because we did see it a lot, but let's not forget JC with a huge flip dive, tope con hilo over the top rope into a tiny gap that I was using as cover. And JC, for those who weren't there or haven't seen him, obviously this is his debut, so a lot of your fans will have never seen him before. He's a tall guy. He's a big guy. He's not a high flyer like we've seen from Edgar Adams or Nate Riley. He towers over me. We saw when doing the test of strength, I couldn't even reach. So when I roll to the outside, in my experience, I'm not expecting a flip dive, tope con hilo over the top rope. I thought I was in a safe space. So a very impressive maneuver there from JC, a very risky maneuver. Felt like it did him a bit of damage as well on his ankle. So he was a little bit suffering from it. But yeah, big kudos for nailing a spectacular move at his 6'5" or whatever he is.
And they said, you picked up the win. It's a bit basically the inexperience shone through with JC at the end, but it was a very good outing for himself. And except for the last show, you're still picking up the wins.
Yeah, so a role reversal from Edgar Adams. Edgar Adams, he was injured. The ref didn't ring the bell. I took advantage and won. Here, I was injured, very legitimately, and the ref didn't ring the bell, and JC backed off. That was the opportunity I needed to get a win. And I had to do that. I had to fight through the pain. I couldn't let the bell ring because Kamikaze keeps feeding me these trainees instead of letting me have a title shot or somebody a bit more exciting to really test my skills. So I had to make sure I took advantage. And up next, at the next show, we will see myself versus Nate Riley, who main evented this show. He's another dojo trainee. So how many of them do I have to cross off before I'm main eventing? That's my question for Kamikaze management. But enough about me. JC, how do you think he did in his debut match?
No, he's very good. He said he showed a lot more than you'd expect. He said, when I first saw him, if you saw an image, you would think someone that's like going to be maybe a bit high flying, a bit of strength, but he actually showed more of a mental game. He knew how to get you off guard for a bit of it, but you kind of overtook it in the end. But yeah, very exciting, JC.
Yeah, athleticism of JC I thought was a huge surprise. And I train at the dojo. I've seen these guys. I know they're all athletic, but what I expect from a Nate Riley or an Edgar Adams is not what I expected from this monster. No, he's a giant. Yes, he looks well built and toned, but he's huge. I thought he'd be going after a bit more of the strength game, but his flow in the ring is really crisp and clean. He doesn't let up when he gets in motion. It's move after move after move. He, I think, played a smart game at the start, but he just didn't realise that I also had a smart game and it wasn't going to pay off. But the crowd got invested in him because he had that charisma and he did play those mind games. The crowd loved to see it, and he had a huge support, not only for the rest of the match, but that huge support is probably going to pay off in the next match and the next match. So even if it didn't come back to grant him a victory this time, I think he did a supreme job in his debut at Kamikaze.
Yeah. So we moved on to a big match for Kamikaze. MJ Grayson, who had just come out of a loss of the championship match against Chantel Jordan. So you weren't able to see much of this due to obviously you just had a match and you had to ice down the ankle.
Yes, I had to pray for the ankle. That's how you really get an injury to recover quickly. I had my boot off, as you saw in my match, so I'd really had to suffer through that to get my win. which I'm sure if Luke Douglas had done it, or any of your other friends, you'd have told me how heroic and warrior-like I was for fighting through that injury. Instead, you seem to treat it with some sarcasm, as if I was putting it on. But yeah, so because of that, this is the one match on the show I really didn't get to see. And I do apologise, because this match has a big story going into it with two of Kamikaze Pro Live's anchors, two of their main figureheads for Kamikaze Pro Live throughout its life, and Chantel Jordan and MJ Grayson. MJ needs the win to rebound. Chantel, she was, as we now know, unfortunately for the spoiler, one win away from really putting in a petition for management to get herself on a main event and in that title picture again. And they are two people with a similar game plan. Both prefer strikes over anything else. Both have a lot of explosive anger and aggression. They usually start the match quite calm, but they let it out. So yeah, I was really looking forward to it. But as you said, immediately after my match, so I didn't get to see all of it. Why don't you break it down for us?
Yeah, so this one I was looking really forward to. As I said, there are two top-notch goal people on the dojo roster. It started off with pretty much working in between each other, trying to get see who can get on it on top. MJ Grayson. I was very much surprised. Got on top of Chantel from the get-go. We discussed on the preview show with Nate. He thought that you shouldn't go strike to strike with Chantel, which is an obvious aspect, but Grayson should try and take her down, which he did. It's a bit of a ground of pain, but he started to get a bit complacent. I don't know if he was surprised how on top he was of the match. And he kept trying to get Chantel get back in, which is not the smartest thing to do with Chantel. She only needs one opportunity and it's game over. He did the smart thing of working the leg, because a lot of Chantel's moves are leg orientated. The finish, as we'll get to it, is a leg orientated move. And he decided to start the strikes, which I think was where it started to go down for him, because Chantel is one of these people that will ask to get hit, which he started to during the match, just going to MJ, just hit me.
I wonder if that's a little bit of embarrassment hangover for MJ Grayson. He had a match in that triple threat title match where his strikes were really off point.
Yeah.
And then I thought against George, they were really on point. So I thought he'd really brought it back. But he might still be looking to send that message that I'm the best striker at Kamikaze, and that might be why he resorted to them when the leg takedown was already going so well.
Yeah.
He probably didn't need to.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like going muscle memory, isn't it? Going back to something, whereas it wasn't working. So Chantel just decided, just calling MJ to hit strikes on a continuously, which I think was wearing MJ down more than her in the end, because it was kind of like the do-si-do kind of thing where you wear out your opponent by getting hit. And then Chantel just took control. She hit the reverse spin kick when MJ's on the knees, and she ended up hitting the it's like a reverse pole driver, like a seated dead eye, to pick up the win, and that was a 5th win, as we've just alluded to. But very, very good match.
Yeah, also known as the jig and tonic, usually, this finisher. I'm not sure if Chantel has her own name for it. Like the legs are captured under the armpits, and it sits you right down into a pin. So it's such a smart move, because there's no wasted motion. I'm really always impressed when I see Chantel hit it. Unfortunate for MJ that he got off the game plan, and that cost him another win, obviously back straight from the last one. We don't yet know what he's doing at the next show, but I'm sure he'll be there, as we say, an anchor for Kamikaze Pro Live. Yeah, I think Chantel, she suffered an injury last year, and I think a lot of people have felt they can maximize and capitalize, and they really start to take advantage in the early goings. But Chantel's toughness, every single match in the past few shows, it's a shame that she's being hit hard so often and off a game for the opening of a match, but she seems just impossible to beat. She's got that heart and that soul, and I wonder how George is going to deal with it in the future.
Yeah, it's a big match. So we might as well mention that now. George versus Chantel at Kamikaze Pro Live 33, which I'll have the graphic for the venue and so forth at the end of the show. It's probably one of the biggest matches in dojo history. You've got the Relentless champion versus the actual Kamikaze Pro Live champion. So we'll have a preview of that, so we won't go into that anymore. But yeah, so that was the first half. We came back from the second half, and then you were on commentary.
The commentary team improved vastly immediately in the second half. It was great for me not only to make sure that the Kamikaze fans receive proper insight, but also so I can do a little bit of cheeky scouting and make sure I see what's going on in the second half, because surely Kamikaze Pro has got to know that that main event spot should be mine soon. So I want to see exactly who's in it now and how they fare.
Okay. So yeah, we kicked off with another debut, Maximus Okoro. With he looks like a gladiator. Just I think what was he I can't remember his actual name now. The Last Gladiator.
The modern day
gladiator. The modern day gladiator.
Yeah, and he was that in every single form. A lot of people do know Max as a Kamikaze trainee, and he was announced as such, a new person from the Kamikaze Pro Dojo 2.0. But they don't really know his heritage and his discipline and belief outside of the dojo. And he is the modern day gladiator in every way. He looked fantastic on his way to the ring. He's a warrior, and this has got to be easier than fighting somebody with a gladius in a sand pit. So walk in the park for Maximus Okoro to be in a wrestling ring.
And he did get a lot of reaction from the crowd as well, from this section that was also for GRC. And Maximus was fighting Luke Douglas, who was coming down to the ring. So am I going through this, or do you want to go through it as you were on comms?
Well, I will start by retracting something I normally say about Luke, and then I'll let you give a very biased, I was almost in a team with Luke analysis, and then I'll correct all the bits you said wrong. But the thing I want to open with is I have said multiple times that Luke is taking it easy on the guys that he's been training.
Mm-hmm.
Not this time. He battered Maximus Okoro. That's some of the hardest hits I've ever seen. You've got to know that Maximus, that's exactly what he wanted. He wanted it to be as hard as Luke could possibly throw. They were stiff, walloping, bruising shots, both the chops and the forearms, kicks, every single one. Luke Douglas did not hold back a single jot. This was, in my opinion, the hardest hitting Luke Douglas I've ever seen, harder than Nate or Edgar in their debuts. So well done from me to Luke Douglas for that. But why don't you talk us through how the events unfolded?
Yeah, so I think the reason he was pretty hard hitting, because Maximus, the same as with with yourself, there was a bit of disrespect, which Luke is not going to take that. Same as yourself, you don't want to be disrespected. Yeah,
agreed, but a little bit of a different type. Yeah, you're totally right. But JC was playing to the crowd. It was comedic. It was winding me up. It wasn't really like he didn't respect my skills. It was like he was trying to throw me off my game, maybe because he didn't want to go one-on-one with my skills. Maximus's disrespect felt more personal to Luke.
Definitely.
It felt like he was brushing him off. He was saying that isn't anything, that those shots aren't nothing to Maximus. He's had harder. He knows much worse. He's lived a much tougher life. He was almost saying to Luke, like, is that all you've got?
Yeah.
Is that the best you can do? It felt a much more of a personal disrespect from Maximus to Luke.
Yeah, and there was a bit of more against from Maximus. It's like he started believing his own hype in the ring, and it was kind of building towards that. He was actually on top of Luke for a lot of the early stages of the match due to this. There was a lot of big moves coming up from Maximus and from Luke. As you said, like hard, ridiculous strokes and chops and so forth like that. It was just a bit of as you said, personality just going fully into it. Maximus,
we've mentioned getting an image up of the debut creature for here, but if you want to feel or even empathize or really believe what we're saying about this match, you're just going to have to watch it when it comes out, because no image, no single still image could capture how hard Luke was hitting Maximus Okoro. You've got to get the footage if you didn't see it to see those shots, because they will give you goosebumps even if you're watching on a laptop at home.
Exactly. And Okoro hit a sliced bread, which is an incredible move to hit, a standing sliced bread.
You could feel his confidence building all through the match, Okoro. The crowd's reaction obviously helped at the start, but as he gave that disrespect to Luke, it was almost boosting himself up to say, yeah, I can fight through this. I've got what it takes.
Yeah. And for people who haven't seen Okoro, it'll be image will be on the screen. But to hit a side spread when you're a big guy, big muscly guy, is it's a dangerous thing to do. But he hit it really clean. He nearly picked up the win via that, and then Luke started to come on top, and Luke just pretty much decided it was game over at this point for Okoro. He decided, oh, I've had enough of this. He hit a few big moves. He hit his finish. Well, it should have been his finish. But so it was hitting to the 1-2, and then Luke lifted up Okoro's arm himself. Said to the ref he kicked out. And then he just started hitting with multiple super kicks.
Yes. So he hit his double underhook spin out, a move I say one of my favourites ever, and then the 21st century breakdown is the finish from the Alabama's position, but he spins them around to the front, and it's almost similar to a Michinoku driver. It's very impressive. Like you say, he lifted Maximus Okoro up. Everyone has got to believe that could have been 3 if Luke could really put his weight in and wanted to win the match rather than pulling Maximus Okoro up. Maximus may disagree. He may say, I had some energy there to kick out if the ref was counting. Why do that if Luke's going to kick out for you? But it looked like Luke could have won the match there and didn't.
Yeah, and I think this is where the game plan of Maximus of the disrespect at the start kind of helped him in this favour, because Luke was so annoyed and angry about this kid trying to one-up him that he pulled up his arm. He then decided to multiple super kick the kid. And then throughout the match, Maximus was coming up with a line of "Are you not sports entertained?" where he'd wham his arms out. Luke tried to repeat this, and then he did it in the ring. Then he did it on the top turnbuckle. Maximus took his spot and rolled him up, and 1, 2, 3, quick win. Luke disbelief, but yeah, that's the tactic of Maximus. He put Luke off his game. I think Luke was so annoyed about it, and Maximus picked up a huge win.
Huge win. I have said for a while it's not going to be forever until one of these Kamikaze 2.0 dojo trainees picks up a debut win, because they're all so good, and well done to Maximus for being the one to do it. We've mentioned the race to be the face of Kamikaze Pro Dojo 2.0. You'd thought Nate Riley had taken a lead. I previously thought Edgar Adams had taken the lead. Now Maximus is in the race. He wins straight away, and JC with an impressive showing as well. Wow, what a day for Kamikaze Pro Dojo 2.0. Yeah, the pin that you're on about, really smart from Maximus, because it was a schoolboy, a roll-up, a schoolboy style pin, but he yanked Luke straight from the second into it. So almost like a mini power bomb. Yeah, like it really would have jolted Luke. It wouldn't have been enough to knock him out, but because it was a jolt and it was a pin at the same time, it was enough to surprise him and get the 1, 2, 3. And Luke, who on his way to the ring had felt like he did still have a bit of that fan swell of support, because they know him so well. And like you said, there was a lot of local guys there who know the Kamikaze trainees, and Luke does help those trainees. But he was furious at the end. He was absolutely raging. He was not pleasant to anyone, including myself there at commentary. Some very unchristian words, but the same to the ring announcers, the ref. He could not believe it.
Yeah, but it said it was his to win, and he got the word I've used a lot today was complacency, and it cost him the win. And Maximus, like, it was about the win of his career. It's his first match, but the biggest win you could possibly have in your first match, really.
100% win record for Maximus Okoro. 100% win record.
What I've heard is he's retired now on that. But so we'll move on to a match I was looking forward to, which was Samuel Hughes, who's been on a tear since he's deciding to turn his back on the fans, against Lucia Lee, who's done the opposite and embraced the fans, and Kamikaze was a big part of her life so far. So preamble to this, Lucia Lee, I tweeted out that Sam Hughes, I don't think you can cheat against Lucia Lee. Like, she's a bit more of a like, she has a bit more about her, a bit of more a veteran. So then Lucia Lee replied back was, if he tries to cheat, I'm going to bite his fucking nose off. And then Sam replied with, I'm going to kick her in the dick. So that was the preamble to this matchup. So it started with so Sam, previous match that you were there, you commentated on. He shook the hands. I think it was Kieran. Lucia offered the hand. No, the other way around. Sam offered the hand, and Lucia batted it away pretty much. Or was it the other way around? I'm confusing myself.
You're just completely falling apart and making it.
I am.
Of the podcast, of yourself, of the channel.
You're waiting for this.
The host put up for you. Yeah. Look, I'm happy you got this far in without just breaking
minutes.
down. So let's start this whole thing again. Sam has come across a number of people that he's known from his time in Kamikaze that he's previously been friends with. First was Kieran McQueen. They did shake hands. Next was Chantel Jordan, which you missed completely.
That's the one,
where Sam batted the hand away. This time, Lucia Lee offered the handshake, and she was met with the one-fingered salute from Samuel Hughes. So 3 very different times where people from Sam's past... I don't have this problem. I've not been around long enough. But there are people from Sam's past who always remember him as being one of the good guys, one of the people who's been there. And they want to bring that back out of him. So the 3 people he's faced, and him and Lucia, they've had matches in the past. I think their first match each at Kamikaze was against each other in some way, but in a team situation. So they want to bring him back to the good side. Kieran, Chantel, and Lucia all met with not the most gracious of reactions. First of all, he tricked Kieran. He did shake his hand to begin with. Chantel, he wanted nothing to do with it, and here the one-fingered salute to Lucia. I am going to complain about this, though, not because he was disrespectful to Lucia, although we do know I have a bias here. I've known Lucia for her entire career, huge fan. Sam, he robbed me on my very first debut, so I've always had a bit of a grudge. But the one-fingered salute in response to the handshake is exactly what Luke Douglas did to Lucia at the last Kamikaze show, and that just riled her up. So he should have known this was going to rile her up. He should have seen that coming. He should have tried something different, maybe gone with a trick like he did to Kieran McQueen, but he didn't. He gave her exactly what he thought about her, and in the end, it cost him.
Yeah, didn't work well. So Lucia outworked Sam for a lot of the start of the match. Like, Sam was trying to be technical because Lucia has the technical edge on it, but it just wasn't happening. He then eventually found a weak spot and was trying to wear her down for a lot of the contest. Lucia was having none of it, kind of fired up. Then there was a few big spots from both people. Sam attempted the finisher, and it kind of went a bit weird. I don't know if you can explain this to me, because you had a kind of... I was at the back, you might have been out. There was a weird, eye poke, kind of poke spot. I don't know what actually happened. I don't know if you could see it more from your vantage.
Yeah, so from what I could see, it looked like using the referee as a blocker, Sam was complaining about an event that didn't happen. To try and throw the referee off. But it didn't look like he maximised the advantage he got. And when he had Lucia up for his finisher the second time, she was flailing, I think, to get the ropes. And then whether Sam is playing it up or whether it was real, I couldn't tell from my vantage point either. So yeah, that was an interesting moment where Sam complained about something which I think may not have been the case, and that was probably him looking for an opening. But Lucia, as you already predicted, was a little bit smarter than that. And unfortunately, didn't take Sam, this is a second complaint, to Luplex City. I was hoping that she would suplex the hell out of him with those sides. So there was a couple, but she was very smart. She gave him a couple, and Sam, coward that he is, stayed down. He didn't want any part of being taken to Luplex City. So she didn't give him a break. She followed it up with a Shining Wizard, straight away. When she saw that he wasn't going to bounce up, he wasn't going to come at her for anything, he was just cowering away, she charged in, hit a Shining Wizard, and was almost a winner right there. So well done to Lucia to staying on it, but I wanted to see Sam get his head driven in 8 or 10 or 12 times like
it's
she
a
did
fun
to Luke
sight,
Douglas.
isn't it? Yeah, the Sayotos, just because they're dangerous moves. If you Wrong way you're landing, you're dead.
One.
Yeah.
One is. And
Yeah.
she gave Luke like 6 in a row. So I was hoping the same would happen to Sam, but he wormed his way out of it. But at least Hot Stuff Lucia Lee stayed on him with the Shining Wizard. So the match did have a bit of a frantic pace to it. That's why
Yeah.
these flailing eye poke. Was it Sam making a complaint? Who knows?
Yeah, and it ended up with Lucia was a bit, as I said, there was a bit too much for Sam, and she picked up the win with the cattle mutilation.
Beautiful.
Great
Hot
move.
Stuff Lucia Lee with the cattle mutilation. She absolutely has used that for a long time, but she doesn't always use it, so it's hard to prepare for. I do appreciate Sam has been on his best game. Despite my complaints about him robbing me of a victory, he has been on his best game since he decided to abandon the fans. But it's hard to prepare for this move that you don't see every match from Lucia. So when she does hit it, it's out of nowhere, and he had to tap out.
And it's a very hard move to when it's in. It's very difficult to get out of, like, because you've got
not
the
a
pressure.
lot of counters.
Yeah, you got the pressure of the person on top of you, and then your arms are behind you as well. So unless you've got like the leg strength to kind of, it was not happening. But win for Lucia. She's back on track. First loss in a while for Sam. He's just going to have to come out again and try and cheat.
It's the same story for both of them, though, isn't it? Because for Lucia, it's actually the first win in a while. So, as we mentioned with Chantel racking up those 5 wins in a row to get this title shot, it's so hard to do that at Kamikaze because the talent is so stacked. So you are going to have a tough time. I have a tough time making sure you get all these wins in a row. For Sam, I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think it's a big bump in the road, like I said to some people. It's just a match that he couldn't come out on top of, but I think he should carry on doing what he's doing because he is getting better all the time. For Lucia, you felt like this was building the past few shows, and she really needed to make sure she got the win this time. Glad that she did.
Yeah. And then we're on to the main event of the night. George Lydon, the reigning defending champion, versus Nate Riley, who has shot up the card. Obviously, we're winning the Roulette Rumble to get into this position.
What a lot of pressure because let's be clear, as you've said, it's his 3rd match. This is really excluding a Rumble appearance, and he hasn't won any of the others. He lost both the singles matches he's had, but he surprised everyone in the Roulette Rumble. He eliminated the big hitters and he came out with the victory. So he's just looking to do that again. He only needs to do that again and surprise George, and he's the Kamikaze Pro Live champion.
Yeah, and for people who watch the preview, he was touting George a lot because he taught him a lot of his high-flying moves, according to Nate. I don't know how much of that is true, but according to Nate...
Let's be clear, very true. Nate has a background in gymnastics. Yeah. He might actually be more adept at the high-flying than George. But George has the experience in the wrestling ring that Nate obviously doesn't have. He's new, even as a trainee. He's had a rocket to the top. So they are friends. They're friends outside of the dojo. They're friends outside of the ring. They are legitimately friends who would go out on a weekend together, and they know each other very well, and they go to open training. They book ring time out between the two of them, and they work together very frequently. So this was a match with 2 similar styles who knew each other very well, and we did see that come up frequently in this match.
And from what you said there, the match started off very like a friendly kind of. There wasn't any kind of hard feelings between either one. They would respect each other, and they knew this was a match they both had to have. But then out of nowhere, it just got a bit rough. George just decided he's the champ while you in the ring. Absolutely started to batter Nate.
And mentality-wise, there's 2 things there that I think are really important. What you said you may have said it as a joke, but it's kind of true. When George is training Nate, when he books out a session to help Nate learn how to do a move, he doesn't think that move's going to be used on him on Nate's 3rd match. He thinks Nate's going to work his way up the card. He thinks Nate's got to string together 5, 10, 15, 20 victories before he's going to come close to George's match. So George, he's got to have been surprised that Nate was in this match with the shock Roulette Rumble victory, and that is going to great that all those things you've been teaching Nate are coming back to haunt you. Second point, the crowd. They were all for Nate Riley. There was local fans, there was family, there was... I mean, no matter who walked in, I don't know why, they were all for Nate Riley, and George, who's used to having the crowd on his side, really didn't have much of a support in this match.
Yeah. So yeah, George took advantage. Like not advantage. Sorry, he just got a bit. He decided to go with a bit rough route,
Yeah.
hard strikes.
Yeah, be clear, there was at no point in this match did anyone even bend the rules.
No.
There was utmost respect. But George went, okay, we've both shown off our gymnastic skills. It's been fun. It's been very close, though. Why stay in this aspect of the game that's close, where Nate could pull out a surprise victory? So instead, George changes the game to something that he thinks he's going to dominate in, a strike fest.
Strike fest, yeah, and he was a bit rough and ready. Nate got a bit into control at some point via that. He showed his athletic prowess. He hit a fantastic dive, which I just expected from Nate, but it was an incredible dive. Back to more strikes and more big moves, but at this point, George, I think he's got more experience. Took over. A word, I don't know if you know the actual term, you as a wrestler, you know the word, a dummy driver, I'll put this like a dominator driver, I'll put it as it, that you hit. I don't know what the exact word in moving is called.
I would love to say that I remembered that Nate Riley had named this move himself, and I can't remember the name of the move itself because Nate has come up with this because it's more than just a dominator driver, it's a double underhook.
Yeah.
And then up for the dominator, and then face planted into the driver. And I'm going to just call it Air Nate, but that's something of his own creation. And he's looked like he'd perfected it. It was a really good move. But for those at home who haven't seen it and are just listening to us describe it, it was like a double underhook into a tiger driver and then into a face plant. Looked kind of like an angel's wings from the dominator position.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic move. And yeah, Nate came up with that himself. He's named it himself, but I don't remember. As you've mentioned, it's been a long time since the show. If you buy the show and listen to the commentary, I call it its real name, which isn't Air Nate, unless it is, because I forgot. Maybe it is Air Nate. You'll have to find out.
You'll find out. Yeah. So that was a big move. Very smooth. I thought that was actually going to pick up the win. I was really surprised. But then George took control, and eventually he was just a bit too much for Nate, and he hit the 450 to pick up the win.
And he also hit the twister before that, which is just a move that's got to be mentioned.
Yeah.
Brainbuster position, which a lot of people have seen George win with the twisting brainbuster, the touch out. So they expect when they're getting lifted in a brainbuster position by George that the touch out's coming. Recently, we saw it against Chantel when he won the belt, and here he's twisted it into a tombstone pile driver from the brainbuster. Incredible move, and he absolutely planted Nate Riley with it. Yeah. But Nate Riley hitting his new finish, as we probably can suspect, that shows how close this match was. In previous matches, we've not seen that move from Nate, not because he hadn't been working on it, but because he was never actually that close to putting somebody away with a big finisher. This was, despite being the highest stakes for Nate Riley, also his most convincing performance, even though he didn't actually pick up the win. He was in control with a big finisher. In his previous two matches, he did come close to winning, but mostly with surprise roll-ups, fast attacks, not this huge dominating power move that he hit on George.
Yeah. So that rounded off. So George did retain the title. Very good main. To round off a decent show via everyone on there. Some good debuts. Some surprise wins from the debut. George retaining. Chantal picking up the win, and that's leading to the next show, which is going to be Kamikaze Pro Live 33. At the Triple X Social Club in Kings Norton, Sunday 16th.
A new venue for myself. I don't know if you've ever been there.
I've never heard of it until they announced it, Carl. I was really surprised when he said Triple X Social. I was like, what is this place?
I look forward to seeing it. A few points just before we sign off with the Nate Riley dive. I mentioned earlier I wasn't expecting JC to dive because he's 6 foot.
Yeah.
9, 6 foot 11, 7, 9 feet tall. So I wasn't expecting him to dive. And I'm sure people sat at home are saying, well, George, he knows Nate Riley is capable of hitting a dive to the outside. He knows he's not safe. The thing about Nate Riley is he knows 50 dives. So you don't know which way he's coming. I've seen him hit the space flying tiger drop. He's a flip dive, a suicide, up to the top with a springboard. He'll fake you out. He'll send you one way. He'll catch you the other way. So, George... he knew Nate had this in his bag. He just didn't know which of them was coming his way. And let's also say to Luke Douglas, a lot of mandatory wins or easier wins against the 2.0 guys, but if you are Luke or you are myself and you're facing these 2.0 guys regularly, it's a big risk because one of them is going to come out with the win. Maximus Coro did that. It's fantastic for Maximus, but what does it say for Luke? He's got to be nervous and eager to prove that that was just a fluke in the next show. So I'm very excited to see what he comes out with now that that's happened and how he responds.
Yeah, and the Kamikaze Pro Live 33 poster will be on the screen. You'll be able to see the thing that we were on about earlier on the show with Will Stevens. He's right.
On the poster.
It's in the back of it.
Where will the poster be?
Yeah, it'll in the middle. And to throw more fire for Luke, he's not on the poster, but Maximus Sakoru is front and centre. Yes, so that's probably going to add a bit of fire.
But let's be clear about this poster. If you have a look at it, this poster is a celebration of the Kamikaze Pro Dojo 2.0 because they had such a stellar day at Pro Live 32. They deserve a bit of recognition.
Front and centre, yeah.
Yes, people like MJ Grayson, Chantel Jordan, George Lydon, myself, we have become these anchors, but the Pro Live Dojo trainees have become the flavour of Kamikaze Pro Live. They are what it's all about, and they deserve this recognition. They're the new stars, and this poster is covered with new stars. So it's very exciting for Kamikaze.
And for anyone that can see, Edgar Adams is back on the poster, which is a nice, so he should be appearing at the event. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, really excited to see him back. He's had 2 great showings, so I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, so Sunday, 16th of April, tickets, I'll put in the link in the description, or just go into the Kamikaze page. At Ringside World, you'll be able to find them. So as usual, that's the end of the review. So as you like and subscribe to the channel, Alex will be returning the week after, or just a couple of weeks after. Well, hopefully he returns a couple of weeks after, because I need the views, Alex.
I'm the views.
The face that runs the place.
Yeah.
But yeah,
make sure the rest of your hosts on HCW know as well.
I think they're the ones that force me to have you on.
I want a Christmas card individually from all of you for every single view that this video and the last 2 videos gets.
Individually for every single view?
Yeah, I think I deserve it. I feel like realistically, your channel survives off my presence and maybe a bit of Heather's, but you guys, you're not contributing a lot, so why don't you at least do something nice for me?
Yep, you don't even get paid. So without that bombshell for everyone, thank you for coming on, Alex, and goodbye, everyone. Alex said goodbye.